Hello, everyone. I'm meteorologist Ted Keller. Here's our severe weather outlooks report for today. Thankfully, for the next several days, severe weather is not really predominant. There are some risk areas when we're looking at the first one today. It covers parts of Louisiana and the coastal areas of the Carolinas and Northeast Florida, but it's a marginal risk, meaning it's the 1 out of 5 chance. And none of the real severe weather parameters, tornadoes, hail, or high winds, really figure prominently in this forecast. So it's really out there just to let you know one or two storms may have, some small hail and some gusty winds. And the tornado likelihood is very, very, very small. If we take a look at CSU's outlook, they don't even really register it for today anywhere in the lower 48, and it's only minor hail and wind chances in those areas I just described. And the SPC has not shown any tornado probabilities for today so far. And again, a reminder that I publish all this in the morning based on the 8 a.m. CDT release of the severe weather outlooks from the Storm Prediction Center. They do update that on day one quite a few times, actually, so you'll want to check there. And if I see a significant update, I will post it. Probably not a full video, just some images. I'm not expecting a whole lot today, really. Now, if we go to Tuesday, tomorrow, there is, again, this marginal risk that extends roughly from Milwaukee through the Chicago area, through the heart of Illinois, through central Missouri, and ending up in southeast portions of Kansas. Again, kind of a broad brush here, even to the point where I'm not even going to show the hail and the wind risks because they're not really that significant, and they're really just caught up in the lowest percentage of each of those in this green marginal area. I did want to point out, though, that there is a 2% tornado risk from just south of Kansas City into western parts of Missouri and much of southeast Kansas, even a small sliver of Oklahoma down to Bartlesville for Tuesday. It's interesting that the wind profiles will work out, that maybe if any storms do pop up there, they could produce a weak tornado, and it would be a weak tornado, and it's not a great chance, but I did want to highlight that fact for you folks living in those areas, and that's on Tuesday. And again, it doesn't even really register on CSU's learning machine. The hail and the wind follow with what the SPC did almost exactly. And then there is a marginal risk, and I think this is probably hail. When I'm looking at some of the other models from yesterday and today, from Pittsburgh down through all of West Virginia, really, and a small chunk of Virginia. This is for Wednesday. Again, lowest risk level out of the 5 that the SPC talks about. Again, hail and wind are the predominant factors there. They didn't really factor the hail in very high, but I think maybe around Pittsburgh and West Virginia, you do need to watch out mainly for 1-inch hail, maybe a little bit larger. Not a real strong system, again, thankfully. Now, we start turning the page through the days here. Thursday, a 15% probability does show up, and I usually, when I look at these, the two criteria that will make me even flag these would be if the 5% area is large enough or persistent enough, or if this starts to pop up, because this persistence of this 15% would possibly trigger the SPC to take a closer look at this. They have not so far, otherwise it would show up here. So that's Thursday. And so again, just kind of a heads up that it might happen. On Friday, this progresses to Missouri. Again, a 15% risk does show up there. And then on Saturday, the SPC actually has pulled the trigger on a 15% risk, which is saying something when it's Monday and I'm talking about Saturday. This is their 4 to 8 day outlook. So when they issue these in that time frame, they only do 15 and 30%, and that's it. So from south central Kansas straight down to Wichita Falls, looks like a chase day for me on this coming Saturday. Of course, a lot of days still ahead of that. If we look at that in comparison, so that's what they just issued in comparison with CSU's outlook. They're a lot more broad brush. So sometimes this does go back and forth. I might see a 15% show up here and they haven't. And this doesn't happen very often, but they actually pull the trigger on something that doesn't show up in the CSU's analysis of it. And then on Sunday, again, I put it on here only for continuity's sake. I think there probably will be something in there. I just don't know at this distance. This is a real stretch, 6 days away, what we're really talking about here. If we go and look at the supercell percentage chances here, average from the next 7 days beginning today, and yeah, there's this kind of idea here that something's going to happen, but the focus is a little lacking on that. But that clarity will come, of course, when we get closer to the actual days. On the 18th through the 24th, still a return of moisture to the Great Plains, and with the ridge kind of leaving. So the ridge of high pressure during this time is going to be here, and we're establishing a more of a trough out here. And even this now, I was saying on the report yesterday that I wasn't sure exactly how this was going to set up. I was looking at like it was favoring more of the front range, and now, sure enough, it's maybe moving that, inching that closer and more broadly into the Great Plains, a more traditional area. This area would be more like a June pattern or a pier, and certainly we're approaching that. But anyway, I think that's interesting. And then on the last week of May, basically, some indications that a cooler, stable pattern establishes here, and we have activity along a front, and again, return moisture through Montana. Again, 3 weeks away. It's fun to speculate, but that'll come into focus, of course, as we get a lot closer. Thanks for watching today's edition of Severe Thunderstorm Outlooks. This is published every day after the morning Storm Prediction Center update. Also, remember to check that site off on day one because they update it fairly frequently. If you like this video, please like it. Also, you can subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.